Before I address my marvel at what the University of Pittsburgh and Seattle have agreed to, apparently with no compunction, I want to put into perspective for you what the University of Pittsburgh is as a school of values, above and beyond the pretentious, endless spinning of my dispute about the nature of reality with Martin Nordenberg, which has clearly gone beyond the pale. A professor who used to come to Charlie Austin's house for Christmas had me in his English class. When I asked a sincere academic question, he got furious and said, "Don't bring philosophical questions into my classroom." So it was one of the things that led me to drop out of the University of Pittsburgh. Well, what shamelessly, UW, Seattle Central Community College, Tacoma Community College, Community College of Allegheny County, Pitt, City of Seattle shamelessly have allowed and done is murder sports, war games, with absolute war games, military recruiting. I mean, the left, the people who protest ROTC recruiters, have tolerated and encouraged it because of the ulterior mentality that the web spinners of popular consciousness have used. In the Uspensky circle of Putinies like Robert Fripp of King Crimson have spun with Peter Gabriel and so on. They had a situation, the Velvet Revolution, prove your caliber. Of course, they had Black Panthers lined up. Prove your caliber by standing up to arrest. So put you away. We go into convulsive arrest from seizures and have a risk of whatever having something like that in your brain. I mean, they did a brain scan. You can check the medical records. And Velvet Revolution, stand up for a matter of principle because you're asking us to accept something we don't want to believe. And they say that it's a test of faith. Well, I have never said that you should take my word on faith. I went to great lengths to get corroboration before I stepped forward, even though there was a great deal of urgency about finding out what had happened, testifying about what had happened. I needed to be able to prove it. I didn't have um, any particular reason to um, demand obedience to my point of view and expect conformity the way these minions on high demand faith in their absolute presto about what trust in women is, for example. Trust, you do not trust me. They used a neuroplasm. We talked about it over and over again. They brought in pillow girls so they could kick me in the head. And they say, "You do not trust us." So we know from watching them that Trumpy Tune has Putin's back when it comes to me. He's going to work on, spellbinding neon prophecy of trusting Greta Thunberg. I like Greta Thunberg. I love Greta Thunberg. But I don't see any value in allowing her to be a human shield for Penis McCartney, Sir Penis, or whatever you call this asshole. So they're murdering people. And what I've done is shown that they planned to murder people and that I have no reason to trust them. And yet, shamelessly, the administration of these schools, shamelessly, with the help of Bill Gates, um, the Israeli coalition who were robbing our posts, robbing our museums, and apparently with the cooperation of the Postal Union. And the Black Panthers laughing at them, pointing at the white who's on death row. And these administrators said, go for it. The deaf kid is at sea. He's insulted the power structure. He said Oliver North was unscrupulous, and that's an insult. Oliver North took that personally, and we'll have British intelligence talk to Putin, and we'll call everybody on the phone who he names as having tortured him, like Manson, which is like Manson in cinema, and that it explains that they were doing snuff films. And they did snuff films. And the administration of UW said, "Hey, go ahead, do a snuff film." They did a snuff film with Cersei Kennedy and two more Kennedys. "Hey, go ahead, do a snuff film." Pitt, don't bring philosophical questions to Zorka. Don't complain about snuff films on our time. Because, see, I don't know who's doing this to the mindset of our collective civics, whether it's Primala, Jayapal, Sherman, Old Alexi, Spike, Old Lee. It looks to me like it's mostly Yoko Ono and the brass lieutenants of British military music that we call rock and roll. But it's ridiculous that they would subordinate the ethics of our school, laugh up their sleeve, and call it like some kind of collective orgy of self poisoning. To amuse who? The Trumpy needs. Why is that amusing to you? And they have this renaissance they call COVID-19. It's a renaissance, back to the glory ages of you know depopulating decisions because they can't get it together. I just they make movies like Dune that has a multicultural cast of childish juvenile blood oath and death vow. For Exxon, the equal opportunity employer, we have Exxon 19 spears in hand to remedy the delusions of the past that Africans weren't human. I mean, Hollywood has its place. The Woman King looks beautifully conceived to remedy the John Wayne heritage of cinema. But it's in the climate of today, it's going to lead to all kinds of absurd, the way poetic justice led to these absurd support for the building of the Ark of Colors by murdering symbolic innocent people. They're going to show the glorify chopping off people's heads and stuff. And if our society had sufficient pedagogy, in other words, an administration of education who could teach about why Hollywood has free expression but isn't meant to catapult us into a copycat hybrid world where the things come true that we see in Manson cinema. The police can't even investigate a real incident of snuff film, much less can they question Hollywood's abuse of violence. Of course, there's going to be all sorts of strident scholars saying, black people have the right to defend themselves as depicted in the film. They should have been empowered to do this, and so on. But, when I hear that democratization, the striking down of Jim Crow, the ending of the demonization of unarmed black men as thugs, I hear the liberation of dissent. I hear the freedoms of equality. I hear liberation of white people from the stereotypes of bigots, as well as black people from the stereotypes of bigots. I don't see any contradiction between the two things. However, there's a whole school of thought, and don't give me any baloney because I know it for a fact, where black totems of power say, kick back their feet and blow cigar smoke and say, "I'm just as bad as any bigot. I'm a bigot too, and don't mess with me because the Southern man is what I gain. I'm a Southern man too, and we're all going to be Southern men before this is over." The Southern Manifesto was something that Al Gore refused to sign. And I'm not signing a Southern Manifesto about a movie like The Woman King, because I don't believe that it's a better world when we're all Southern bigots, black nor white. We're all Southern bigots. You better get through your head, book. That's not what I believe. I wouldn't want to sign no Southern Manifesto about black cinema, about uprising to protect black people. I think on its own terms, it's healthy that they're doing this, provided that it's put in a perspective of normal pedagogy. But it's not. We have an administration that is murdering people for dissent and can't wait. They're licky chops about it. They can't stand that they haven't gotten it done yet. And Trumpy too is watching Vladimir Putin and grinding those back in this matter.